Good evening and thank you for being with us. A Thunder Bay mayoral candidate is calling on the Police Services Board to stop the process of selecting a new chief of police. Bill Morrow is suggesting that with the results of an inquiry into the board's conduct still pending, it would be inappropriate for the body to decide on who will lead the force in the future. Shane Pasquino has more.
It's my belief that given the situation, even though they're within their authority, that they should pause the process and wait for the report from the Civilian Police Commission to land on people's desks and be publicly released.
Mayoral candidate Bill Morrow believes that a delay in hiring the city's newest police chief is in the best interest of not only the police service, but the community as a whole. He says proceeding with the hire without knowing what the OCPC investigation will find could be setting the new chief up for failure once the report is released.
If it's damaging and the investigation is not flattering on the Police Services Board, anybody who's been hired with that report now landed on that desk, I think for that person, you may already be in a position of having lost some of the confidence. We don't want that to be the case for the new chief.
The Police Services Board declined to speak to Dougal Media on camera, but chair of the board, Jackie Dojak, did release this statement. She says at no time has the OCPC suggested that the Police Services Board should do anything less than fulfill all of its roles and responsibilities. She also says the board intends to fulfill this responsibility. The board has previously stated they hope the search for a new chief is complete by early November. Shane Pasquino, TBT News.
There was a heavy police presence along a section of Highway 61 this morning as officers looked for a motorist who blew through the Pigeon River border crossing. OPP had this cruiser stationed on Highway 61 at Boundary Drive and other units in the area of Boy Scout Road. This came after they were contacted by Canada Border Services about a black passenger vehicle that failed to stop shortly after 9 this morning. Patrol officers were able to locate the vehicle and pull it over, but a search had to be initiated after the driver exited the vehicle and fled. He was apprehended a short time later. Still, this led to a closure of Highway 61 for a couple of hours while forensic and crime unit investigators processed the scene. There is no word yet on the identity of the driver or what charges may be laid. The consulting firm in charge of finding an alternate access route over the Nipigon River has revealed some of the potential corridors. Officials from WSP Canada are meeting with area stakeholders this week, including an open house in Nipigon tomorrow. Jonathan Wilson caught up with them on Lake Helen Reserve and files this report.
In the winter of 2016, the malfunction of the new Nipigon River Bridge split Canada in half for 17 hours and highlighted the need for a secondary route for highway traffic.
When the bridge did break, all eyes were open to of how vital of a crossing that was, and everything was stopped.
Last year, the province hired WSP Canada to develop alternatives for crossing the river, and now some of the concept areas are being presented to the public for comment.
Looking at everything that makes any sense, including a new bridge with a new piece of roadway to it, at some point either north or south of Lake Helen. We've been looking at some temporary bridge techniques that are being used. That could be a solution.
One of the options for a temporary bridge is in the immediate area around the new 4-lane Nipigon Bridge, which will be completed this fall. And there are also a variety of corridor options around 20 kilometers north near a pair of hydro dams operated by Ontario Power Generation. They're both located off Highway 585, which runs along the west side of the Nipigon River and Lake Helen. The Cameron Falls Hydro Dam already has a 1-lane public access bridge over a narrow section of the river.
So that offers some opportunity for using existing infrastructure, which is always good. So that is in the mix of alternative routes that we are looking at. We do have some other ones that where there's no bridge right now and there would be a new bridge required.
WSP officials have been meeting with the Red Rock Indian Band and Nipigon Town Council, neither of which have a preferred option at this point. And the width and road quality of the secondary route are also up for debate.
Exactly what type of a route are we talking about? Is it going to be just like an access, like an escape road, or is it going to be a secondary highway? None of those things we don't know yet.
What is going to be for our communities is going to provide the greatest amount of work and the greatest amount of economic benefit. For us, it's not just about having a way for people to get across Canada, it's also about the economic impact on our community.
WSP officials will host a public information center at the Nipigon Community Center on Thursday from 4 to 7 o'clock. The alternate route study is scheduled to be complete by the end of 2019. It will be up to the provincial government to determine how soon it's constructed after that. Jonathan Wilson, TBT News.
The Doug Ford government continues to push forward with its plan to slash the size of Toronto City Council. It reintroduced the enacting legislation, Bill 5, this afternoon, at the same time invoking the Charter's notwithstanding clause to ensure its passage. Now, this came on the heels of a bitter debate and a raucous protest that forced the Speaker to clear the gallery. Colin DeMello reports.
David Miller couldn't build transit, Rob Ford couldn't build transit, and neither Rob Ford built transit.
You're making a feud. They're all going to throw up there.
They were in the middle of a contentious question period when suddenly there were interruptions from the public gallery. Members of the public began yelling at the Premier, calling him a bully and undemocratic, before the House was forced to rise. Minutes later, members of the public who refused to leave the gallery were arrested, at least 2 taken away in handcuffs. All of the commotion over the unprecedented step of invoking the notwithstanding clause. Today, the Premier was taken to task by the NDP.
Does the Premier believe that Canada needs a Charter of Rights?
What Canada needs, and Ontario needs, and Toronto needs is democracy.
And for the first time, the Attorney General speaking about the government's reasons for invoking the clause.
Mr. Speaker, time is of the essence. October 22nd, there is an election happening in Toronto. We need to give the voters of the City of Toronto certainty about the rules under which the election will be conducted.
Colin DeMello, CTV News.
United Way of Thunder Bay has announced a more modest goal for this year's fall fundraising campaign. The announcement was made this morning at the organization's annual campaign breakfast. Corey Nordstrom has more.
An early start at the annual campaign breakfast came with the United Way's goal for the coming season. The organization is hoping for $2.28 million. This comes after being about $200,000 short of their goal last year, which was nearly $275,000 more.
We don't like to focus on a shortfall from last year. What's really important is to recognize that the dedication of the volunteers and our donors really had a positive impact on the community.
The group took the time to thank their sponsors and show the impact they have made on some people in the community.
At that point, I just thought I was alone, but then I finally found a program that I connected with.
The campaign theme for this fall is local love, praising the individuals who contribute to the United Way, which allows them to help thousands in the community. The event also saw 2 new funding campaigns added.
So with the power of the J. Armand Bombardier Foundation and Bombardier Transportation, leadership is available. So for the first time ever, we will be matching brand new leadership donations of $1,200, 100%.
T-Baytel has also started a new workplace campaign.
So start a new employee campaign, have a corporate donation or match, and T-Baytel will generously donate $1,000 for each new employee campaign started, to a maximum of $10,000.
In addition to commending donors, they also honored longtime United Way volunteer Colin Bruce. He received the Ross B. Judge Award for dedication to the United Way.
I happened to be a member of the board when we instituted the Ross Judge Award, and always knew how special and how dear that award was. And to receive a phone call to say that I was going to receive it, my breath was taken away. I never expected it.
Corey Nordstrom, TBT News.
Thunder Bay's Hogarth Riverview Manor continues to operate under a mandatory management order, and it's unclear when the province will lift that restriction against the seniors' home. Last fall, the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care ordered St. Joe's to enlist help from a third-party company to run the massive 544-bed facility, citing ongoing non-compliance with provincial standards. Ryan Bonazzo has the latest.
The mandatory management order has been in place at Hogarth Riverview Manor since October of last year, when the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care declared St. Joseph's Care Group unable to properly manage the 544-bed facility on its own. The outside consulting firm Extendicare Assist was brought on in December to help improve quality of care and address staffing issues that have plagued Hogarth since it opened in January of 2016. St. Joseph CEO Tracy Buckler says Extendicare initially brought on an entire team, but notes the company's presence has steadily decreased.
And so now someone comes from Extendicare a couple days a month.
Buckler says Extendicare helped formalize proper procedures at Hogarth, and while it wasn't a situation St. Joe's hoped to find itself in, she insists it's been a productive partnership and that significant progress has been made.
The communication, I would say, is the biggest area that has improved. Definitely the care has improved as far as teamwork goes. Good care before, better care now.
But staffing concerns remain. There are currently 480 residents in the home. The remaining 64 beds won't be opened until more personal support workers are hired. And Hogarth is still operating without a full-time administrator. And while Buckler hopes the province will lift the mandatory management order by the end of the year, she admits that's unlikely to happen until that senior management role has been filled.
It's very difficult to find the right person. There are very few homes that are the size of Hogarth Riverview Manor. We will not take someone who's not suitable. We will not take someone who can't manage a home that size.
The Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care has not responded to our request for comment on the situation. Ryan Benazzo, TVT News.
The inquest into a 2014 area mining death got underway today at the Water Street Government Building. 38-year-old Pascal Goulet was killed in a July 2014 incident at the Lac des Îles mine about 90 kilometers north of the city. The inquest is expected to last 3 days and we'll hear from 9 witnesses. 3 of those witnesses took the stand today. The first 2 provided testimony on the Ontario Health and Safety Act and an operations overview of the mine itself. The third witness was a mine supervisor who found Goulet trapped underneath a large rock with no vital signs. The inquest will continue on Thursday. As people in the Carolinas await Hurricane Florence, some local workers are gearing up to offer their support. Gridlink Vice President Jeff Miller says a team of 6 local power line workers are heading to North Carolina tomorrow to help restore power. The crew will bring a number of vehicles and equipment to set up poles. Miller says the team has a plan in place to avoid the Category 3 hurricane by staying above the storm and then working their way south after damage is done. For the second time in as many days, Thunder Bay Police have issued an appeal for help in identifying the culprit in a city convenience store robbery. Similar to Monday's robbery, it happened just before 11:30 last night at the North Edward Street Max store. A lone male wearing a dark balaclava and a hood and armed with a knife entered the business and demanded cash. After receiving a small amount of money, he fled on foot, heading southbound on Edward Street. The thief is described as being about 5'10" to 6 feet tall with a thin build. He was wearing a black hoodie with Nike Air on front in white lettering and light blue jeans. Anyone with information on the robbery is being asked to contact Thunder Bay Police. And the Vox Popular Media Arts Festival takes over Trinity Hall and the Urban Abbey this weekend. The 4-day film festival has a big local emphasis this year. There are 60 different short films that will be showcased, and tomorrow, on opening night, 7 of the 8 films are from Thunder Bay filmmakers. Festival coordinator Marcus Mbarbar says this year's festival focuses on more than just film.
It's been very exciting. We've had a lot of positive feedback to having a lot of the other things included, and a lot of people are very excited that there's more media arts because Thunder Bay has such a rich arts community. So really being able to pull from all the different areas and bring it all together, I think is really exciting for an event, and it really adds to having more than just films, but the films are definitely the big focus.
Megan Barr says the festival will include performance arts, music, art installations, and 2 different master classes. New this year is also a horror theme on Saturday night featuring scary subjects and dark comedy. Horror films always make me laugh.
Today, not a horrible day weather-wise, it was a pretty nice one. And considering that